Managing light. What do we do as photographers? That's what we do. You know, I mean, that's actually a pretty good title because it's really what we do. So I'm very proud to be a Nikon ambassador, and we have all had, I mean, anyone could come up here, any serious photographer could come up here right now and give this talk, because this is who we are, this is what we do. We encounter light, we tell stories with light. Photographers, light is the pen with which we draw the world we see. Light has, I think, every characteristic, really, of the spoken or written word. Would you agree with me? Light has emotion, right? Light can be angry, can be slashing, can be voluptuous, can be ornate, can be boring, can be its own fantasy, can create a world. And that's what we use, that's what we rely on. From the Greek, the original Greek word, photographos, it means to write with light. So that's what we do. And what Mike said, Mike and I go back a long ways. And what Mike said about being an available light photographer, yeah, right? Who here is like only an available light photographer? No, right? Ma'am, you have to leave. I'm sorry. Can we have security over here? There's an available light photographer in the second row. No, we're going to take steps, right? Does anybody know the name W. Eugene Smith? Very famous, crazy man who was a staff photographer at Life magazine. He originated the photo form we now refer to as the photo essay, right? And when I was in school, I wanted to be W. Eugene Smith. And he came to Syracuse University to give a lecture. And I sat in the front row. I was there like way early, you know. And he was a very, very imperious man. And when he sat up at the podium, he had a large glass of milk and a very large glass of vodka. And they were both gone at the end of the lecture. And he was 3 sheets to the wind. You know, and I told Nikon, I said, look, can I have a glass of milk and some vodka? No, they said, no, you can't. So, and someone very nervous called out from the back of the room, excuse me, Mr. Smith, is it true that the only good pictures are made with available light? And he was very dramatic. He said, yes, the only good pictures are done with available light. And by that I mean any goddamn light that's available. Should I have said that? I guess I can't say it. It's live stream. That's the amazing thing, it's live stream. It's already gone, it's out in the universe. It'll never come back. It's like the cat got out and you're chasing it and you're never gonna make it. So anyway, so that left an impression on me, for sure. Light, the power of the sun, you know, it's there or it's not. We use light, you know, in amazing ways. This obviously is an available light picture. But managing light on location for photographers is like breathing. It's necessary and natural, an intuitive, experience-driven necessity for survival. So when I was a young photographer, I wanted to work. I had to work, you know, and I realized pretty early on that to get work, I had to become as versatile as possible. You know, does anybody remember the name Mary Ellen Mark? An amazing, powerful photographer. And there was a period of her career where she would only work for someone, and this was big time people, like she did a lot of advertising off to the side, Volvo and big campaigns, and she told them she would only entertain an assignment if she could shoot 8x10 black and white. Can you imagine? And she still had clients because her vision was so powerful. That's not me. I was never that powerful, okay? I'm an assignment guy. You give me a job, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'll go get you a picture. So I realized early on in my career, I had to remain versatile just to get work, to survive. So my friend Sharon, who I've had a long relationship with, splashes of light. You encounter light. My friend George, you'll hear me say this a fair amount during the course of my talk. My friend so-and-so, my friend so-and-so. Because what is photography? Beyond the necessary requirements, beyond observing light, beyond all the pixels that we have on the floor here today. What is photography really about? It's about relationships, right? I've known George for over 20 years. You know, down in Cuba, early morning light, powerful dancer. Mexico, available light. And then something happened to me a long time ago. National Geographic asked me to shoot a story on Ellis Island in the New York Harbor, a historic place. And I was like, I was busy in New York shooting jobs for magazines, you know, and a big job for the magazines I was shooting for, even like Sports Illustrated or you know, Fortune magazine, a big story was like 4 or 5 days in the field. That was like a lot. National Geographic asked me to photograph this tiny island in New York City and said, we'll give you 30 days. I was like, 30 days? I almost keeled over. And I had such a blast because I was pursuing history, and I was going to the island early, and I was looking for these things that were lit in such a beautiful way, and it was absolutely an antidote, really, for the kind of work that I was doing, which was all people-driven and executives or portraits and this and that. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. But then I found out why they really hired me. This remains, to this day, the biggest lighting job I ever did. Because I think it was because they knew I was eager to work for them, and I could take a lot of pain. You know, that's also in the subset definition of photographer. He or she who can withstand a great deal of pain, you know. There's about 250,000 watt-seconds of light, right? I lit this whole building. It was a construction shell without power. One of the reasons I think they hired me was that I had been raised up in New York photography. So when I went on to the island, who's the first person I went to? It was a construction site. Being in New York, I went to the construction foreman because I needed to bring a generator truck on the island to power my lights. And I said, I need to bring this generator truck. What do you think? He's like, I don't know, you know. $1,000. Shake his hand, goes in his pocket, says, bring your generator truck on the island. It's okay by me, you know. And that's how it works. So that was kind of, once editors see something like this and they know you can light, they just keep doing it to you, you know. So, but happily so, happily so. Speaking with light, I did a piece on trying to match a picture that had a lighting feel and evocation with lyrics of a song. So this was Closing Time. Okay? You can't stay here. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Okay? And then my friend Teresa Stokes, you know, she's a stunt acrobatic person. This is kind of like a, you know, kind of a fun, natural light picture. But I also realized that a plane like this presents possibilities. So my studio manager's been with me for 33 years. And I said this yesterday. She lives in active fear of my imagination. So I said, Lynn, I need you to find me 3 biplanes. And I want them to all be capable of smoke. And I want 2 trailing. And I want to light the first one. And I'm going to be in the first one. And I have to have radio control over everything. And this is what she does. And the pilot gets in the plane, and he's got these orange mirror sunglasses, which I did not order up. I was like, thank you, God. You know, because he gets into the plane. I said, holy smoke, I'm flying with Mad Max. This is awesome. And I got a flash in the cockpit. I'm sitting up front. I'm looking at the rearview mirrors. I got a 14-24 clamped above my head. I'm ducking down. I'm looking, and I'm like, smoke on. It was so cool, you know. And that led to this. Nikon wanted me to do a job that showed how amazing the range of the SB5000 Speedlights were. And I said, all right. So 3 helicopters in the New York Harbor. And I lit this puppy. We had a subject helicopter, a shooting helicopter, and a BTS helicopter. Yikes, you know. And she's a stunt actress. She's connected. You can see the tether, you know. So we did it safely. but this has got 4 SB5000s in it, and I'm controlling them from 150 feet away in another helicopter. But you know, you have to be sensitive to light. As soon as you start to ramp up in a flash direction, everything about your eye also ramps up. And sensitivity to light, okay, becomes absolutely part of your kit. So this is a natural light picture, sun with a 12-foot silk, and I shot at the end of a day when I did this, okay? And this was big production. That fire is under control, but I built a bonfire in the back of the woods. I lit all those trees. They ran through a gauntlet of lights with a beauty dish. I'm shooting this with a 200 to 400. We flooded that trench. I mean, that's production work. That's what you do. You have to go all the way. Anybody familiar with that old expression, in for a penny, in for a pound? That's location work. Once you take that step, you know, you're off the cliff. And man, I have jumped off the cliff any number of assignments, and the parachute did not open. That's why I got a face like this, because I'm, you know, oh no, I never should have done that. Be unafraid of your imagination. Photographically speaking, being peculiar is a virtue. You know, my wife is very patient. But you know, you scout a location. This is a smartphone picture. See the light there? It's going up. Sunlight doesn't go up, right? I was like, okay, that's curious. I look out, and there's a pool in the backyard. The sun's bouncing off the pool. I'm like, oh. So I recreated that with a silver scrim and high-powered lights outside, blocked off the window from the natural light, moved in, lit the room. This was for a Halloween illustration for the PPE conference in New York, which happened over a Halloween weekend. My theory was there's a little girl in bed. She should have gone to sleep. She's reading a scary story. She has this woodland scene painted on the wall, but within the woodland scene materializes an evil elf. And she'll never get to eat her candy. Sick, I'm sick. Yeah, no, I get it, you know. But light, what's that old form follows function or something like that? Light graces your subject in a way that you have to perceive as being appropriate, right? So Ray James in the Martial Arts Hall of Fame, look at his body. Like cut, ripped, angular, you know? And that light is cut and ripped and angular. And I just followed him around during the day. And this is backlit now. I lit this up in front, but again, it's a long strip box and it's pushed over to the side. So again, there's shadows. You don't want to get in the ring with Ray, right? I'm not going to light him like I light a newborn, right? You know? And then follow the light right until the very end when it takes on that golden hour color and the absolute angularity of light as it falls towards the horizon. Window light. Okay, this is actually on my Instagram today. He's a Romanian actor. This is an old factory, simple window light. This is actually shot with the 58 Noct. Does anybody know about that lens? 0.95. Amazing. Rod Marr, it's an honor to have you in the audience. And so, very minimal depth of field, obviously. But what do you do when you haven't got window light? And you want to shoot in Preservation Hall? And you have to make window light. This is all done with Speedlights. Sheets are on the windows. You know, I visited Preservation Hall a long time ago. My brain is kind of like a beaver dam. Things get stuck in it. And I was down there for Sports Illustrated 100 years ago, and I remember looking at the windows, the dirty windows of Preservation Hall, and I said, one of these days I'm going to come back and I'm going to use those windows. And this Joe McNally on the drums, legendary Preservation Hall drummer, okay? Minimum depth of field, fashion. Here's the thing, light can make people look differently. So here's this wonderful lady doing her fashion glamour thing. Same lady a little later on with natural light. Different look. Right? Light speaks. Sometimes it speaks with a whisper. Sometimes it speaks very, very loudly. Light can go any place. That's why I fell in love with Speedlights a long time ago, right? Because you can put them places, like out on the outrigger of a canoe in Hawaii. You know, difficult to get at places. Put a plastic bag on it, tape it up, put it out there, take a chance, okay? I've done some pretty, you know, ridiculous things with light. You know, this is pro photo lights on a crane, and then I'm rappelling off the side of the building with the dancer. This is anti-gravity. They're dancers, and they turn the dance floor vertical. And they just do their rappelling thing in beautifully artistic fashion, you know, when, and it's marvelous to watch. It's marvelous to watch. All right, one Speedlight, right? I showed you Ellis Island, whole bunch of stuff, you know, one light, you know, one light. But then here's a whole bunch of stuff. I was very honored. I was one of 4 photographers nominated to introduce the Nikon D850, which was, it still is, an astonishing camera. I mean, we're all like moving into the mirrorless world, but the D850, when I got the D850, it was like I had found the holy grail of everything I was looking for in a camera. It had speed and power and resolution and all that stuff. I'm like, thank you, thank you. And then they asked me to do treatments. One of the things I tell young photographers that's very, very important, that they kind of maybe do a head tilt. It's like, you want to be a photographer? Learn how to write. Write coherently, write powerfully, because increasingly the job of a photographer is to create proposals that you present to prospective clients to try to induce them to give you money, you know? And if you just write a sentence like, I'd like to, you know, do a story on, you know, France. You know, you have to articulate, you have to be specific. So I wrote a treatment that was, I've seen too many James Bond movies, and so I had this thing where a lady, a fancy lady, is escaping from the museum with the gems she just stole, and she's slipping past a sleeping security guard, but the tail of her elegant dress knocks over a statue. And they came back and they said, we like that. And then that's when the terror starts, right? That's when it gets you right in your gut. That's when you go into the shower and you can't get it out of your head, and you're literally limping all day long because this thing is like, I just said I could do that. I don't know that I could do that. This is a very big place, right? And there we are, about 35 people on the crew. Lights are on cranes outside in the street because the museum would only let us work at night, and I had to create something that looked like daylight to create that, right? There's a brace here because we just couldn't get a bunch of statues and keep breaking them, you know? So we photoshopped out the bracing, but there's the lady escaping. It was a 6-day extravaganza, you know? And we moved in on a pre-light day, lit the entire museum, and then came back and shot the actual picture, which is fun, you know? This was not so much fun, all right? National Geographic, you can tell when a magazine really hates you. They keep assigning you to go places where they think you might die. And it's like, here, go shoot telescopes on the top of lonely, distant mountains. And then quietly, or at the conference table, like, maybe he won't come back and we won't have to pay him. You know, that was National Geographic, by the way. The editor at National Geographic fancied himself to be God, and he controlled your air supply, right? It was photographically nirvana. The actuality of it was awful. Anyway, I'm looking like I'm having fun, right? This is on the top of Mount Graham, which is an 11,500-foot peak in Arizona where the world's largest binocular telescope resides. You get a very healthy respect for the wind when you're on the top of a mountain on top of a 175-foot toothpick with a 25-mile-an-hour wind variance. And yeah, and that's what I got, because I have a very limited window. There's about 30,000 watt-seconds of light inside this building, which is about 20 stories. I'm on the crane. I'm directing my assistants on radio. Move this, move this. I've got about a half an hour window because the sun is fading to the west, which means behind me to the east, the sky's getting darker and darker. And as soon as these binocular telescopes go black, we're done. So I had a very narrow window to make this happen. And the guys on the crane is like, we got to pull you down. We're over wind. We're over. I'm like, you pull me down. I felt like Rocky at in the last round. Anybody stops this fight, I'll kill him. You know? I said, you are not pulling me down. I am staying here. I don't care if I die. I'm going to get this photograph, and they can rescue the camera afterwards. But light matches character. This man in Brooklyn has been in the boxing ring a long time. Jolie has been on stage in Vegas, you know, and she's luminously beautiful. So I lit her like that. My friend Claudette has the voice of an angel down in St. Lucia. I asked her to go into the surf and hold her camera like a baby. One light treatment. Little Freddie King, sadly gone. The king of the blues, New Orleans, right? So there's a window over here that matches that window. And so I created a drape and put a light through it because windows are where light comes from. So one of the very first things I look when I'm managing light is, where's it come from anyway? You know, so how do I make it look like it's already supposed to be there? So that window's not in the picture. If I shot available light, which I could have, what happens to that window? It goes nuclear. And your eye, automatically drawn to light and bright, leaves Freddie and goes right out the window and never comes back. So you have to, let's face it, when you manage light well, you're basically manipulating the eye of the viewer. You're saying to them, this is language. You're having this conversation with someone you'll never meet. You're saying, look here, not there. Stay with this. And that's what you do with light. My friend Nancy, out on the plains, one light picture. Same thing here. I can't shoot available light. This is Margaret. She came through Ellis Island on a Scottish steamer at the age of 2. That's her ID card at the age of 2. And she's 93 when I shot this. I can't bring her to Ellis Island on a cold morning at 5 o'clock in the morning when the light is coming through the windows. This is noontime. So blazing light. But the story of the picture is right. Here she came all those years ago. Why did she come? The lady. So I have to bring light through this window because I have to light her, and then I concurrently have to light the room to bring it back up, because lighting things, it's like boxcars. It bounces into each other. My friend Les, I stopped. Here's the beautiful thing about being a freelance photographer. Nobody cares about us. I don't have a job. So I was listening to Les on 5th Avenue, and then I put some money in his Saks case, and I walked off, and I thought, you know, he's really a nice man. So I went back, and I said, do you mind if I sit down on the pavement with you? And he said, yeah, it's all right. And we started talking. Next thing, I'm in his apartment, you know, and he plays on 5th Avenue through his own choice. He's a Juilliard graduate. But he says, nobody controls me out there. So I can play what I want. I can work on my tone. And then I wanted to, he gigs at the Paris Blues Club. So that was natural light. This is a production shot. Is it early morning or late afternoon? No. But my lights are gelled like they are, and they're out on the sidewalk. Little smoke, arrange the chairs, tell Les, just create a mood, man, do some scales. He's a dear, dear man. I woke up one morning, he said, I want to photograph a guy in a garage with a crazy expression and 2 oxyacetylene torches. Lynn, my studio manager, looked at me and said, why? You know, but again, light through the windows. You know, that's where light comes from. I think I have to accelerate here. I think I'm doing okay. They give me a little timer here, so I'm watching, you know. Okay, shot this for a Nikon mentoring project. Dominic Minix, wonderful, wonderful musician based in New Orleans. Okay, this is Natalie, and she's not a ballet person. She's more of a, what they would call, back in the day on Broadway, they would call him a hoofer, you know? Bob Fosse style, jazz hands, kind of like tap dance, kind of. And so I lit her back in that era. The theater is filled with smoke and speedlights. Again, back to the story of matching a lyric, because I'm old, I remembered Angel in the Morning. And there's got to be a few, yeah, got to be a few people here who remember that song. One light treatment, simple, soft umbrella. Why? Because I wanted her to be open and angelic. And again, my friend Nancy, just the most naturally effortlessly beautiful person I think I've ever photographed. Just amazing. Okay, fashion picture. They said they wanted some color. I'm like, okay, you know, so she came on the set with like, what, that old thing you just dragged out of your closet, you know? Again, my friend Jolie, I did a little story on her life off stage. This is backstage, little snappy kind of like dazzle light. And here's the beautiful thing about performers, right? They love the camera and the camera loves them back, right? They're so natural. That's why I work with dancers, because dancers can physicalize your imagination. You give her a mood or something and it's like, yeah, I can do that. I'll go with it, you know? And then she's just, I didn't ask her to wink. She just looks at me and she just like takes off, you know, because she trusts me. We've worked together maybe for 12 years and she loves the camera. Okay, this is a little noir story I did. This is the Blue Room at the Algonquin Hotel. Little elegant Speedlight treatment, one light overhead, one light underneath, powerful combination. You know, the lighting itself took maybe 10 minutes. My friend Louie, who I got to know in the aftermath of 9/11, character portrait, New York City firefighter, now retired. Okay, and there's Les again. You know, I call him up every once in a while, hey, you up for a picture? And this is on a train platform in Brooklyn with I think it was an 85 millimeter lens at 1.8. Wanted to show, you know, that lack of depth of field, and we're all running off the cliff chasing, what are we chasing? How do you pronounce that? Boca? Some people say bouquet. No, it's Boca. Okay, all right. Yeah, all right. That's what, you know. Again, little Freddie, one light, down by the river in New Orleans. Circus performer in Romania. I love performers. Isn't it amazing that there are people, I always absolutely respect that, because they've got enough talent and enough guts to get on stage and say, okay, you have to pay money to come see me. You know, that's amazing to me. So I celebrate that kind of talent and I celebrate that kind of audacity. The camera is a wonderful vehicle to stand in service to them. Country music duo in an ice cream store, kind of lively and fun, Cream City, down in Cookeville, Tennessee. Okay, elegant, sort of old railway car, styled to an era. And yeah, I just saw her as 60 to 5'6". I just went, no, 5 hours of body painting, you know. One light treatment in Cuba. People actually wrote to me after this picture got published, and, oh my God, what did you do to that car? Seriously? You know, I'm not worried about the car. The guy who owned it said it was okay. She is not a heavy person. She's a dancer. And that car is an old car. It's made out of steel. You know, hello? And Nikon asked me to take the SB5000 and go crazy. Okay, I'm one-stop shopping for crazy, all right, you know? So this is 32 lights, you know, done in a day. I showed this to an ad agency. The art directors looked at me and said, well, is this a composite? I'm like, no. I said, well, how many days did it take to shoot? It's like 1. I said, well, when did you start? About 9 o'clock. When were you done? About 6 o'clock. And says, and this came out of the camera? I'm like, yep. So, point of pride, right? Point of pride. I can see it, I can shoot it. If I feel it, I can light it, okay? Give me a chance, and I will turn the corner on something, you know, I will. Okay, all right. You know, when a subject walks out, this is Leo Bud Welch, sadly no longer with us, Mississippi blues man performing in New York. When a subject walks out, wearing a suit like that with a red guitar and red shoes, just get on your knees and say, thank you, you know? And the details, the storytelling details, his hands. These hands have a story to tell. And lastly, I showed this, we riffed on it, Mike and I, yesterday. Okay, in Romania. Probably the most dangerous place, one of them that I've ever been. I've worked in mines all over the world. This place was crazy. No OSHA. Ancient, the actual elevator down looked like an elongated sarcophagus. And 6 of us stood like this, and the thing rumbled and rattled, went down, I don't know, maybe a kilometer or so. And then we hiked this way into the mountain. And there were times I had a backpack on that I'm scrambling through holes that I wasn't sure I could get through. No electricity, no safety equipment, nothing. We were under 2.5 kilometers of earth. And the only light was the miners' headlamps. So all of this back here, there's miners lighting that. I was like, I couldn't speak the language. I'm like, here, yeah. And we got along great. And at the end of the experience, I did studio portraits of all of them. And as I said yesterday, we were in the most dire circumstances. Something happens down there, you're not coming back, okay? But they were laughing at me because I'm this crazy photographer who can't speak their language, and I'm photographing them. I was using a little LED, can't use a flash down there because coal dust is very combustible, right? And we were laughing, and I thought to myself, well, this is the human spirit writ large. These men go down into this mine every day. I'm a tourist. I only went down there for 1 day. And here we are, we're laughing and we're sharing, and the photographs are the gift I can return to those people who stand in front of my lens, who, by standing there, give me a gift. And always remember that as you go forward with a camera. Whether you light it with 1 light or no lights or whatever, the person in front of your camera is your most valuable resource, if you will. The most valuable thing you will encounter that day, so take care of them. Go forward, and as Spock said, live long and light well, or something like that.